So recently, Ian Flynn went on his Bumblecast and answered some Q&As, basically some questions. And one question was from a fan named Wolfsbane about, the status of Sally and the Freedom Fighters, and how Ian wants to get them in there, but you know they were just curious as to possibly when and where, if at all, it may happen. And I think they even brought up in the question that it might be a little complicated for him to try, or at least it might take a lot of complicated steps to get there and stuff. And Ian Flynn, he answered that question pretty much in a very similar manner. He basically said that there is a lot to go through to make this happen. He did state that if it does indeed occur, that we do get the Freedom Fighters in there at some point in the IDW Sonic book, which obviously he knows fans want to see. He wants to, from his own point of view, he wants to see happen himself at least once. And he's pretty sure the creative team that works with him wants to see it happen too. But he basically said there are some complications, if you will, like some things would basically not relatively be the same. Now, he didn't rule out that we wouldn't see them as we last saw them in the book, after the Sonic Unleashed Panic in the Sky arc, if you will. He didn't rule out entirely that we wouldn't see them like that, but he said the likelihood of us seeing them as we last saw them would probably be slim. Like, he's not ruling it out, but it'd be like a wild card of a chance, a very thin wild card of a chance that we would see them, as we last saw them in the Archie books. Which means basically, the more likelihood of when we would see them, we would only see basically maybe as they were pre-reboot. And not just pre-reboot, but sort of as we saw them in SatAM, or in the early to mid-run of the Archie book, which is, the issue 0 to 3 miniseries that started the book, and then the official run of the book from issue 1 to, I would say, 25, 45 at most. That being the issues 1 to 25 or 45 at the most, as the version of the Freedom Fighters we would see more than anything, which means we would not see no whist, ring blade, wrist ring blade slinging Sally, like we saw in the post reboot. We would see no HoloLinks, as we got to see Nicole in both incarnations. We wouldn't have no relationship between Bunny and Antoine. Rhoda wouldn't be muscled out as we saw him. Basically, he pointed out that these would be changes, that these would be the kind of changes to most likely expect, more so than what you're expecting. Like, he's pretty much confirming that fans would expect maybe seeing the characters as we last saw them, but again, that's a very, very slim chance, and the more likelihood of when we see them is seeing them as we first got introduced to them at SatAM, and as well as how we first got introduced to them in the early to mid-run of the Archie book. Basically, when it went from the hybrid goofiness of being based more on Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, but with SatAM characters, to being more SatAM-like as the issues went on, like from 25 onward. So that's kind of the gist you're getting from it. Kind of the idea you're getting from it. And to further prove that, let me find the recording here. All right, so I found the audio clip of Ian answering this question. I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to let you listen, and you tell me what you think.
from Wolfsbane. Ian, I know you're trying to get Sally back into the fold, and as much as I would like to see how she was in Archie in IDW, I know that's not going to be the case. Or at least, not one for one. What changes should we expect if/when she does come back? Is there anything you can tell us, or would that depend on certain circumstances?
It depends on a whole bunch of stuff, none of which I would be in control of. So, if any of that material were to come back, don't expect it to be like it was before. You can pretty much assume all Archie nuance and design and whatever is gone. No hollow links, no buntuan, no wrist blades. Heck, I think Antoine wouldn't even be a swordsman because I don't think he had that skill in SatAM. Just assume anything Archie-esque is off the table. Beyond that, it could be even more extreme. I don't know.
Well, I hope that's not what comes to pass ultimately, but we'll see when we get there. Here's a question from Wolf.
Okay, guys, you just heard it there from Ian himself. That was a clip that was retweeted by Sally for All at All for Sally on Twitter by Rich, and I think we all know who that Rich is. But yeah, that's from Ian's own words on his September 12th Bumblecast Q&A. And yeah, like I said, you know, he's basically saying, look, if this does happen, if we get this to happen, you know, don't expect what you saw previously to be incorporated into the IDW book. It's basically, he's saying that the whole slate's going to be wiped clean. It's going to be like a whole new playing field. Like, yeah, there'll be the characters you love. They'll probably have the same, you know, similar, identical personalities and characteristics as before, maybe with a few new tweaks here and there, because that's kind of what he was doing with them in the post reboot, soft reboot, retcon, if you will. Under the Archie umbrella, he was kind of doing that there with them, you know, at that time. So that's basically kind of the idea, of, you know, that's kind of the idea of what, you know, he's saying to, you know, telling us as fans, saying to us to expect, like, yeah, if they do return, you know, it's, you know, it's going to be entirely a new slate for them, you know, there might be, you know, again, there's no doubt they might have characteristics and personality traits identical and similar to the previous run, but there's going to be new tweaks. There's going to be new things about them that you've never known about, and or never knew about, but never would expect. Period. And you know that is a possibility. That is a strong possibility because we've seen that a lot with a lot of new comics, you know, based on established properties. How they would bring in characters that fans want to see later on, and the characters would have, you know, similar traits and characteristics to the previous appearance in a comic, but also have some new things about them, some new traits, some new tweaks, you know, about them under the new publisher. So that's what he's kind of telling us to expect. And even Rich at Sally for All at All for Sally on Twitter basically said this in response when he posted this clip. This is what he said, and I quote, "All right, everyone, the question we've all wondered has been answered. If the freedom fighters return, there will be stipulations. Hopefully they won't be too extreme, but it's implied they might revert to the classic SatAM designs and traits." So, and it is true. You heard it from Ian yourself that it is kind of implied that, you know, that if they come back, that might be, you know, not only the design that we get of them, the SatAM, you know, design, the early to mid Archie run Sonic design, if you will, like issues, like I said earlier, miniseries issues 0 to 3 and regular series, ongoing series issues 1 to 25, maybe 45. That's the most likely scenario of, you know, when they show up, that we'd be seeing them. But again, we'd also be seeing them, you know, probably with a few new tweaks thrown in here and there, to kind of make it feel new, more fresh, more newer, and stuff. Not just, for the old school fans who'd be glad to see them, but also for the new fans that finally get a chance to see them in IDW, could see them with on a new path, be put on a new path, given that, new fresh coat of paint needed to make them more appealing, modern-wise, to the new generation. But it's going to be interesting whether or not that does happen, because again, he's not. It's a slim thing, as you heard in the interview. It's a slim thing, but he's not ruling out the possibility that we still might see them as we last saw them in the Archie books. But it's a slim chance, very slim chance. So, it's interesting to hear what he had to say about that. So we'll see what happens. If they make an appearance again, more than likely, it's going to kind of be like almost a restart, a reintroduction of the characters and a restart for them, to where the character traits, personality traits will be similar and identical, if not a bit different, to what we know of them, as well as they might have a few different traits here and there, tweaks, if you will, tweaks, if you will, here and there, to freshen them up a little bit for today's, audience. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts down below about this? How do you feel about Ian's answer to that question by Wolfsbane? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chats are open, as well as super stickers are open during the live chat. Super thanks after the video. But give me your thoughts. Check me out at BW Rose's Discussions, or your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at Venmo at Brian-Warmer-2 and at Cash App at BW Roses 98 to help support me financially there as soon as possible. As well as check me out at patreon.com/BW Roses, $1, $3 tier.